Well guys, it's happened. I excitedly filmed a propagation video, came back a few weeks later to finish it off, and the propagation's failed. So I'm going to show you the propagation, the steps that I went through, and then I'm going to show you the results of my propagation, the failure, and then I'm going to throw in some insights about why I think the propagation failed. So it should be a little bit of a learning experience. So let's get to it. Okay then guys, so this is a really simple process, propagating your plants, particularly with a Tradescantia, because they are so easy to root. They really root really quickly. So the tools you will need for a successful propagation: some nice clean snippers. I've got a spray bottle here full of water, and I've got some rooting powder. I'm going to be putting them into my propagation box, which is just a tote box filled with perlite. Okay, so you need to locate a nice healthy stem. I'm going to make a cut just above a leaf node. So a leaf node is such as that piece there, where the stem kind of changes colour, and that's where the leaf point grows. So I'm going to make a cut in between there, and that is our stem cutting that we're going to make multiple cuttings from. So really interesting plant. I really like how compact the growth of these leaves are. It's a good indication that this plant is getting enough light as well, because if it was not getting enough light, then the point in between these leaf nodes will be stretched out. What we need to do, I'll show you from the underside, maybe easier to see. At each of these leaf node points, one there, one there, one there, one there, one there, one there, we need to make a cut in between each of those, and then we'll plant them up, pot them up, and they will develop roots from where we have made the cut underneath these leaf nodes. So we can do one there like that, one in between there. We could do that one. I think I will keep that as it is, and hopefully some new roots will develop from underneath that leaf node. We've got a stem piece with one leaf attached. From that point, roots will start to develop, and then we'll get a new growth point from developing from there. Open the lid. I've already got a propagation project in here, my Philodendron Brazil. So I'm going to add my cuttings to this box in its own little corner. Like I said, if you wanted to, you can grab your rooting powder, get your cutting, just dip it in like so, where the roots are going to, where the leaf node is, where the roots are going to develop. Dust off the excess, and then plant that up into your perlite. So all you want to do, take your cuttings and just pop them into your perlite, just cover it up a little bit, and they should develop roots. So that's one. Put that in the corner. And there you have it. So how many have I got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 cuttings from that one stem. So I could either have 9 individual Tradescantia Nanook plants, or I can put a few of them into one pot and have a really full plant. So all that's left to do now is to grab my spray bottle, like I say, just filled with water, and just give my fresh cuttings a few light sprays just to increase the humidity in that area, and then pop the lid on. Popping the lid on obviously keeps the moisture in, just makes it a nice happy environment for the cuttings to develop roots. They like a nice humid environment. So I'm going to put this in a bright location. I always keep my cuttings in my east facing dining room, keep them out of direct sunlight. If direct sunlight is constantly hitting this, then obviously it's going to get too hot in here, and they're going to start to cook the cuttings, and they might shrivel up and die, and that's really not what you want. All right then guys, so it's been about 4 or 5 weeks since I did that propagation of my Tradescantia Nanook, and sadly, unfortunately, some bad news, this propagation has failed. So I'll open the propagation box, and we can have a look at what's happening inside here. So as you can see, most of these cuttings that I took are rotting. So I've actually already chopped away a couple of cuttings that had rotted quite early. So I was hoping that it was just going to be isolated to a couple, but it looks like, judging by these, that all of these are rotting. So I'll pick up the most badly affected one, this guy here. And as you can see, rotting from the stem. So that's the worst one. This one's probably the best looking cutting, but the stem is black. So eventually this leaf, I think, is going to rot away. There's certainly no roots on here anyway. So that's the best one. Still feels quite firm, to be fair, but I'm not liking the look of that black stem. This one as well. This feels a little bit mushy, a little bit black. So that's going to eventually turn to rot, I think. This one, you can see the stem's black. It's a bit squishy. And obviously it looks like the moisture is getting into the leaf, and that's not what you want to see. So this will turn to rot. This will develop rot much in the same way that one has. So these aren't viable cuttings. And just look at this last one. This one feels very soft, the leaf, so it's going mushy, and the stem is mushy as well, it's black. So all of these have failed. So it's a bit of a shame with this plant. I have actually propagated this plant before. I did it in a different way. What I did on my previous propagation, I took a longer stem piece, maybe 3 inches. I stripped the bottom leaves off, and at the top of the stem had 2 or 3 leaves. So there was more stem piece to the cutting. So I think that's a better propagation technique for this plant. So basically I think with these, there's not enough stem for the cutting to take roots, and essentially basically just rotted away. Too much moisture in this box. So that's what I think's happened. Not enough stem, and the stem, because there's too much moisture, has rotted the leaf. So in my previous propagation of this plant, where I took the longer stem piece, I did that in just soil and didn't have it in a propagation box like here. So I think this propagation box is not really a suitable method for this plant, this Tradescantia Nanook, because I think this Tradescantia is a bit more of a succulent type of plant, I think, than the other Tradescantias, like a Tradescantia zebrina or a Tiana. The leaves are thicker, so I think they don't need as much watering. So I think by having it in this closed, humid environment has essentially created too much moisture, and that is why these stems has rotted away. So it's a bit disappointing, obviously, but I do think it's a bit of a learning experience, as all of these failures are really. You can take something away from this. So hopefully you found that interesting, guys, even though it wasn't a successful propagation. I thought it was worthwhile coming back and showing you my failure rather than just covering it up and throwing away my original footage. Hopefully you found that useful. Thanks for watching.